vast universe, beautiful Earth, the dream of a peaceful, ideal world. This is the long-cherished dream of God and humanity. In the shoes of a servant, with the heart of the parents, shedding sweat for Earth, tears for humanity, and blood for heaven. The man who has spent his entire life for God's homeland, Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Reverend Moon is now revered as the true parent to humanity, the savior to the world, the king of peace of the cosmos, and the model saint before heaven.
Without him, there would be no Washington Times, and I think it's appropriate that we pay our respects to him.
I respect Reverend Moon with all my heart. I wish for God's will to be
The
fulfilled.
activity of Reverend Moon is very important.
I think that Father and Mrs. Moon stands as a great example of the unity of the family.
16세 범으로 천명을 받고 출발했던 하늘길이었습니다. 해고해보면 본인의 삶은 참으로 외롭고 고독한 외길의 일생이었음을 고백하지 아니할 수 없습니다.
Ten months after the 3.1 Korean independence movement, Reverend Moon was born in Jeongju of Pyongan-buk-do on January 6, 1920. Reverend Moon was a boy full of curiosity. He befriended nature, spending his days roaming the mountains and rivers. He was also quite mature, always thinking of others before himself.
고기를 잡으러 가면 고기 구멍에 식구먹질 해가지고 뱀장굴 가서 입에다 물고 나고 했죠. 손을 잡 매끈매끈 해서 못 잡는다. 근데 우리 오빠가 지지 새낭 차렸단 말이야. 이렇게 바디가락에다가 쟤는 이렇게 고기다가 가지고 한무살이 지치 잡아가지고 고선 허세나 너 이거 먹어라. 그래서 잘 먹으지요.
However, the nation was groaning in misery under the Japanese rule. His hometown, Jeongju, was on the path of refugees, running toward Manchuria. Reverend Moon's family was renowned for giving charity to those in need. His great-grandfather even left a saying, "If you feed people from all over the nation, the blessings of the nation will come to you." And thus, Reverend Moon's house became a place where the refugees tired from their journey could stop to eat food and rest. Having been raised with this kind of family tradition, from his early childhood, Reverend Moon couldn't ignore other people's pain and suffering. He often gave sacks of his family's rice to the refugees passing by his home. He understood that he needed new knowledge in order to reclaim the nation, and so he entered Osan School and transferred the following year to Jeongju Public School. Influenced by his grandfather, Yoon Kook Moon, who was a pastor and also an independence activist, Reverend Moon's love for religion and his country grew.
At the age of 16, young Reverend Moon lost 5 of his 13 siblings. Grieving the death of his siblings and friends, and for the suffering of the nation, the young boy at 16 years of age went up a mountain alone to seek answers from God. On the dawn of Easter morning in 1935, the boy who prayed in tears all night long met Jesus in spirit. When I doubt people, I feel pain. When I judge people, it is unbearable. When I hate people, there is no value to my existence. But when I loved those who acted against me, I brought victory. If you have loved as I have, I will give you the crown of glory. His determination on this day to accomplish God's will became the force that drove him for his entire life. The young Reverend Moon became a completely different person after that Easter morning. He spoke less and spent more time in deep contemplation. When he turned 18 in 1938, he went to Huksukdong in Seoul. Homestay in an unfamiliar land, far away from his hometown for the first time. He entered Gyeongsang Commercial School with a major in electricity, which was the cutting-edge field of study at the time.
요마니까 뭐저 우리 오빠 공부 실력에 고생 많이 했지요. 그저 눈에 채가지고 맹지 나가지고 우리 어머니 밤낮 자지 못하고 그저 배 짜누라고 그래. 그때 쌀한 마리 이혼시갈지해요. 올싸금이 한 달에 10원이 없게 됐죠. 그때 그러니까 10원이 큰 돈이디요 뭐.
그렇죠.
우리 어머니 어찌나 고생 많이 했는지 몰라요. 오빠를 오셔서 우리 어머니가 나 때문에 고생 많이 했다고.
Going to school on weekdays and to church on the weekends, he sought out the will of heaven and fundamental principles of the universe. His Bible worn to tatters from his study, and his tears from deep prayers soaked the floor. He cried because the pain and sorrow of God and Jesus touched his heart. In 1941, Reverend Moon went to Japan for further study. Thinking that learning about Japan thoroughly would help the liberation of his nation, he entered Waseda University and majored in electrical engineering. Apart from his studies, he voluntarily experienced the lowest kinds of life through working at a dockyard and experienced the highest standards of life by sometimes sleeping at luxurious hotels. In such ways, he trained himself vigorously. Under his motto, "One must govern himself before desiring the dominance of the universe," Reverend Moon worked to unite his mind and body. At the same time, he was very active in an underground independence organization created amongst Korean students.
제2의 3.1운동 어떤 걸 하려고 모임을 가졌었죠. 걔네들이요 얼마나 심하든지 한국 사람인데 다니면 꽁무니를 떠야 돼요.
Reverend Moon constructed the main frame of Heaven's Word before the liberation. His preparation to soar through the sky was complete. However, because of his liberation activities, he was captured by the Japanese police. His bones were crushed, his flesh torn as he was tortured brutally. In 1945, the liberation finally came. The tragedy of losing what they once owned, having their children taken away to the Japanese army, the pain of oppression. The sorrow of Korean people during these 40 years was exactly what God had been going through. God who was ripped of everything by Satan, chained by pain and sorrow for 6,000 years. The God Reverend Moon discovered was not the omnipotent God who casts judgment. God had excruciating sorrow, as he was unable to do anything but watch as his dream of heaven on earth shattered to pieces. It was the parent whose heart had been burnt black from losing his begotten son. God's sorrowful heart. Reverend Moon became determined to liberate God from Satan's shackles and put him back on his rightful throne. This was the promise he made with heaven. Reverend Moon's public life began. He was 26 years old. He began searching for spiritual Christian sects and worked to spread the will of God and the new truth. The joy of Korea's liberation was cut short. The nation was divided into North and South at the 38 parallel line. In 1946, when refugees journeyed south seeking freedom, Reverend Moon went up north, remaining obedient to heaven's command. People who were thirsting for heaven's new words of truth came to Reverend Moon, and his number of followers expanded rapidly. In 1946 and 1948, because of local Christian churches' slanders and the North Korean Communist regime's religious persecution, Reverend Moon was arrested twice and dragged to Daedong Security Office, being charged as being a spy from South Korea. Reverend Moon endures more gruesome torture. Even through his suffering and anguish, Reverend Moon endures the torture by lamenting for God all the pain he had to go through.
세숫대야에 피를 토해놨는데 이 토해인 건지 토했는데 핏덩어리가 둥둥 떴는데 한 세숫대야나 토했어요. 그런데 아버님이 이제는 세상 떠나기 직전이라고 그러니까 아버님도 말도 못하시고 가만 누워 계시는데 너무너무 불쌍하고 너무너무 비참해서 볼 수가 없었어요.
After 2.5 months of deadly torture, he was sent to a forced labor camp called Hungnam Fertilizer Factory, this time charged with disrupting the peace and order of society. It was backbreaking labor, starting at 4:30 in the morning to fill 1,300 bags of fertilizer in one day. The camp was a place of no return. Even in such a hellish environment, Reverend Moon shared his food with others and took care of his inmates, which gave him the title Prison Saint.
미숫가루 같은 거 저는 이제 놀아먹질 않는 사람이 대부분인데 문 선생님은 그렇지 않고 아픈데 안찰 기도도 해주고 그냥 이 교회에 대한 진리 같은 것들 전파를 시켜주고 다른 사람하고는 좀 다르게 행동을 했습니다. 그러니까 이제 감옥 안하게 성자라고 그럴 수밖에 없는 게 아니겠어요.
On June 25, 1950, Reverend Moon was in the camp when the tragedy of the Korean people began. October 14th of the same year was the day he was to be executed. The North Korean army planned to retreat and began killing the inmates systematically. However, Hungnam's gates were opened due to the bombing of the United Nations forces. Reverend Moon left the camp with his new followers. It was 2 years, 8 months after being incarcerated.
40 years later, on December 6, 1991, Reverend Moon met Kim Il-sung in that very place of death. He talked about the peace of Korea with the very person who sought to kill him. Now, Reverend Moon gives financial support to charity and hosts cultural sports exchange more than any other religious organizations or business companies in South Korea. Reverend Moon's true love embraced even his enemy who tried to take his life. Just like the story of Jacob embracing his brother Esau with love in order to indemnify the sins of Cain and Abel, Reverend Moon used this same philosophy in interacting with North Korea. Reverend Moon visited his hometown in Jeongju. As he laid his eyes on his hometown, deep grief was filled his eyes. After meeting with his remaining family and laying flowers on his parents' graves, thoughts of true love being the only hope filled his being. Reverend Moon's foundation in North Korea blossomed through the Little Angels performance later in Pyongyang, and plays the role of acting as a hotline whenever there is tension between North and South Korea.